Chapter 156 to 158. Pakura's teeth jerkily touched her tongue in full force, about to bit it off, while she tightly closed her eyes. Ninja or not, death is death and humans fear it like the plague. Pakura was simply no different. While she might not exactly fear it in the height of combat, suicide was still a big mental pressure for her. As her teeth went through the first layer of flesh on her tongue, though, her entire body froze, completely paralyzed. No matter how she tried, she was unable to twitch even a singular muscle. Holy shit, I was almost late. Damn, Tsunade really knows how to hold on to somebody. Suddenly a disgruntled loud voice resounded right in front of her, causing Pakura to widen her eyes as a young man in the process of hastily pulling on his shirt just popped into existence there, kicking the two approaching Kiri ninjas away. Unfortunately for them, their pants were half down, so there was not really much resistance they could offer. For better or worse, Ray didn't really pay attention to where his foot flew. One received a nice kicker into the crotch, sending him flying a few meters back, while the other got himself a nice one right into the noggin. Oh! Ray realized he kicked somebody only after feeling the impact. Sore dash. He was about to apologize when he saw Pakura, and he finally understood why his alarms went off. Honestly, he actually forgot he had her marked. On the other hand, I am not sorry at all. Ray scowled, bending down to pick up Pakura's cut-off leg. Paralyzed or not, Pakura was inwardly gaping in complete disbelief. At least, the three remaining attackers of hers were also as surprised as her. One was rolling on the ground, holding his crotch while the other was wailing, holding his face. Lying on the ground, Pakura idly wondered how strong that kick had to be to disable two highly trained hunter ninjas. Ray didn't like the state he found Pakura in. She was the only user of Scorch Release, meaning valuable. Even if Ray didn't take her bloodline into consideration, the woman could still fight one of the 7 swordsmen of Kiri with only kunais. She had the potential to become someone really incredible, and Ray wanted to see her work for his future village. So I was a bit too late, huh? Ray sighed as he crouched down next to Pakura's paralyzed form, only to find out the woman fainted a few seconds ago. He frowned as he realized the woman would most certainly die if he didn't get her to a medic ASAP. I better take her to Tsunade. A chance to get S-rank ninja for free is not something I am going to pass up on. Ray heaved her up on his right shoulder, while holding her unattached leg in his left hand. He was about to teleport away when he stopped and slowly turned towards the 2 groaning men on the ground. His lips twisted into a feral grin as 2 shadow clones popped up next to him, both eager to try out reactions of the human body to new mixtures of chakra with nature energy. Needless to say, when the third man who left when he saw his companions wanted to have their fun with Pakura finally came back, the only thing waiting for him was a bloodied tree bark and underneath, a puddle of Pakura's blood. A chill went up the man's spine when he realized both Pakura and his 2 companions just disappeared. At first, he quickly put his guard up, waiting for some kind of ambush, but even after a few minutes, nothing happened. He then thought about what could be the reason for neither of the 3 to be present. Heck, the woman was literally nailed to the tree, so her disappearing was really disgruntling. And after he went through various scenarios, the man finally came to the crux of the situation. Shit, I will have to report this to Mizukage. I am so dead. Needless to say, the Suicide Squad almost gained a new member that day. Ray sat next to Pakura's bed, leisurely reading Ika Ika Paradise. Naturally, he read it because of the plot, not the smut. He had enough smut going on at home, after all. Right? God, if only it was not so boring, sitting here and waiting for her to wake up. He mentally whined. Honestly, Pakura was a bit too close to death by the time Ray managed to get her to Tsunade. The woman already lost an almost lethal amount of blood, and if she wasn't a ninja, she would be 6 feet under half an hour before Ray got to her. For example, it took even Tsunade hours to reattach the leg properly. Today was the 3rd day Pakura lied in the newly established hospital in Yuzushio. Sure, it might have been Ray's fault that he forgot about her, but in his defense, Pakura should have been sent to Kirigakure only after Yagura became the Mizukage, and yet, here she was. Looks like the butterfly effect is really a thing. Ray inwardly sighed. How troublesome, he thought, turning the page in his book. Only with the corner of his eye did he notice Pakura subtly stirring. She slowly fluttered her eyes open, and Ray praisingly noted she had her guard up even before she did so. With her eyes finally open, Pakura quickly took in the room in which she found herself. I will commend you for being careful. I am Ray and I saved you. Well, you should be able to remember that part. Ray drawled before the woman could come to some misguided kind of her own conclusion. Pakura shifted, finding her upper body bare, only covered in bandages, and quickly pulled the sheet up, causing Ray to smile at how shy the supposedly toughest woman of the Sunegakure's younger generation was. Where am I? Pakura asked, her tone low and measured, guarded even. Oh ho, she is definitely mentally probing her body and muscles while looking for escape routes. Ray smiled at how her eyes almost unnoticeably flickered from side to side at times. Yuzushio, that's not important. Rei dismissively waved the Ika book at her in a silly manner, making her relax while distracting her. What is important is that I have an offer for you, since Suna betrayed you, which gives you only two choices. You can either die as Sunagakure and the Kazekage wish, or you can go rogue. In case you decide to go rogue, we, Yozora, could possibly find a spot for you. If you choose the first option, please at least kill yourself somewhere far away from the bedsheets. Pakura could only dumbly nod at him. She was really speechless for a moment. She coherently summed her feelings up before shaking her head to get out of the daze. So, you are offering me, she pointed at herself in bewilderment. A chance to join Yozora? The same Yozora that completely enraged 4 out of 5 major ninja villages? The same Yozora that could infiltrate any village they wished? Yozora, the rogue ninja organization which has 3 SS ranks. The more she talked, the more weirded out Rei's gaze became. Didn't know we are so famous. In a nutshell, yeah, you can join. Rei had an urge to pat her head due to how cute her disbelieving expression looked, but he held himself back. Kunoichi and all that funk. Who knows if he would not lose his hand if he tried to touch her head without warning her first. Honestly, I had my eyes on you for some time now, Rei said, causing Pakura to narrow her eyes slightly and shuffle back a bit, especially since she saw the Ika book in his hands. And no, I did not orchestrate this, nor am I some kind of closet pervert. He uncaringly shrugged. Anyway, I had you marked with a locator seal. The only reason why I was late to save you was how unexpected the situation was. I can't really tell her I was late, because Tsunade wouldn't let me leave the bed, right? Meh, it was unexpected for her to get sent to KasiCair so early. Half-truths for the win. Rei inwardly cheered. Now let's hope she never asks for the entire description of the locator seal functions. She did get completely paralyzed before fainting, so maybe? Nah, I am not going to open that can of worms. I have so many questions I have no idea where to even start. Pakura started, completely lost. She had no idea what to do in this situation. Rei, as if instinctively, threw the book he was holding at her, making her catch it on reflex. Read it. The plot is fine, the smut is second-rate, and I think I am being generous. And at the complete end of the book, I wrote basic info about Yozora, and what I would want from you if you join, and what I am offering you in return. Rei explained, not even giving her the chance to ask her questions, before standing up from his chair. Tomorrow we will talk about it. Make sure to think it through. And with that, Rei walked out of the room, leaving the flabbergasted woman to her own devices. He called this move an ultimate tactical retreat. The door closed after Rei left the room and Pakura's shoulders instantly sagged. The bedsheet edge slipped out of Pakura's hands, exposing her bandaged body, while tears started to stream down her cheeks as her hand subconsciously rubbed the place where her leg was severed as if to confirm this was really happening. Pakura let her body fall back onto the soft bed, sobs escaping her lips while her free hand worked hard on wiping the rivers of happy tears when her brain finally registered how close she was to. I am still alive. Pakura's face bloomed into a beautiful smile, her eyes turning towards the closed door with sincere gratitude in them. Thank you so much. I accept. Rei momentarily halted, his hand on the handle of the door in the motion of opening them. Well, that was quick, and here I thought we would at least exchange greetings first. It was already a day since he gave her the book and Rei was sure she looked through every nook and cranny of the room, tried to get outside at least 53 times, only to be stopped by a nurse or a doctor with Tsunade-certified training under their belt. Needless to say, Pakura stayed put. She then tried to look for monitoring devices, checked and rechecked her kunais, which were left on the table near her bed, in order to give her a bit of safety, and spent hours near the window, trying to find out as much as she could about Yuzushio through it. On top of all that, she also made damn sure the food nor water she received is drugged or poisoned. Rei was only glad one had to be Seal Grandmaster to even detect his monitoring seals. Then again, her vigilance is really fitting for a kunoichi. He mentally mused. Fortunately, Pakura didn't try to get out of the room, nor did she become violent. The place was, after all, still a hospital. Why so sudden? Rei asked while finishing opening the door and walked in. I thought you would want to negotiate the terms or something. I don't really have a choice here anyway. Pakura sighed. It's exactly as you said. I might be the hero of Suna, and people there might love me for putting my life on the line during the war for them, but Raza is the Kazekage. Coming back and announcing what happened would only lead to a civil war, and Sunagakure is in no state for that. It would ruin it. That means... Pakura balled her hands into fists. The higher-ups would just give up on me and declare me a missing ninja. They would choose to abandon me and weather through some public unrest because of that rather than having a full-blown civil war on their hands. Her expression turned bitter. Of course, Rei knew all that, but he let her talk to vent her feelings a bit. The woman seemed to need just that at the moment. As for going rogue, Pakura continued in a bitter tone. The second Suna declares me a rogue ninja, Konoha will follow because of their alliance. KasiCair will also put the kill-on-sight order on me, if only because it is a mark of shame that I survived the ambush from 10 of their hunter ninjas and destroyed their plot to implicate KasiCair. As for KasiCair, I killed quite a lot of them during the war. No way I would find peace in that country. She shrugged amusedly. The only real possibility is KasiCair, and while the new rakeage is rumored to be putting some old policies down, they would still sooner breed me against my will to reproduce my bloodline rather than have me on their roster. Well, they are basically more barbaric and showy Konoha. Rei quipped, making Pakura smile at the jab on Konoha's hypocrisy. It was no secret Konoha liked their bloodlines a bit too much. Frankly, Rei knew it would end this way. It might, at first glance, be easy to hide in the wide world. After all, there are only so many ninjas that would hunt for her, no? She could always hide in some remote island in the far south or something, right? Or in the continent on the opposite side of the land of water. There are not many ninja villages, and it is quite big too. But in reality, ninjas, for better or worse, roamed through every nook and cranny of elemental nations. All it would take was one who would recognize her without Pakura knowing about it, and stopping him for good, and there would be a hunt for her. ANBU from all villages, mercenaries, and worst of all, the fellow rogue ninjas would all scramble to get their hands on the bounty for S-rank ninja's head or body, especially since she was the sole user of Scorch Release. Anyway, being in the organization with 3 SS-rank ninjas would give me far more protection and opportunities than going by myself. Pakura honestly said. She was very grateful for being saved, and it might or might not have played a role in her final decision. When she was on the brink of death, knowing that KasiCair betrayed her, all she wanted was a place where she would be safe and for somebody to save her. It was the very first time in her life she ever wanted to be saved. Pakura believed in training, in giving the effort if she wanted something. She never depended on others more than necessary. But for the first time, she prayed to be saved, and something she thought to be a miracle happened. The man in front of her saved her, and then offered her a safe haven. While she was still a bit wary, Pakura decided to stay. Not to mention, if the man in front of her was able to conceal the existence of the whole Yuzushio village during its formation, hiding one more rogue ninja would be no problem for him. Just tell me what exactly you are expecting of me, she asked, hoping Rei would not say anything outrageous. Well, I am in the process of making a new hidden village, you see. I need somebody capable to be my Jonin commander. Rei shrugged. Conan already called dibs on the secretary role. Tsunade wanted to be the head of the medics. Ringo quickly decided she would pull the reins of hunter squads and ANBU. And Mei decided she would be a housewife. And as it usually happens between men and women, Rei was informed about their decisions only after they were set in stone, and there was no way to change their minds. Not like I can offer you any other position. Sorry, Pakura. He thought, feeling a bit exasperated. I can do that. Pakura smiled in relief. Position of Jonin commander for a soon-to-be-established hidden village? Rei wanted to give her protection, and on top of that, offering her a relaxing but prestigious job. Pakura ashamedly averted her eyes. If Rei asked a lot out of her, the next request would be so much easier. But, in the information you provided, you wrote I would be allowed to leave the village, within reason of course. Pakura started a bit unsurely. You also described the secrecy seal. I am fine with that, but would it be possible for me to covertly go to Suna and have a talk with my apprentice? I practically raised the girl, and she would surely follow me. She looked at her hands. Naturally, Pakura understood that Yuzushio was still hidden from the world, and Rei didn't want people to know of its existence just yet. Making this request was a bit awkward for her, but she loved Maki as if she was her own. Rei momentarily halted. So, she is basically giving herself to me, as if gift-wrapped, and even offering to pull her apprentice with her? 2 for the price of 1. The one being for free at that? Sure, why the hell not? A Cheshire grin spread on his lips. I see no problem with that. In fact, let me give you a lift to KasiCair. Rei, sitting in the armchair in the corner of Daimyo of the Land of Snow's office, watched the unsuspecting man as he walked into his office, humming a happy tune. It was a bit sad sight in Rei's opinion, since the man didn't even know he was about to die in a few days. Or maybe he suspected something going on. It would certainly explain the more frequent visits to his beloved daughter and hiring little and depressed Kakashi to protect her for the next few days. At least the man had enough common sense to expect someone trying to kidnap his closest family to get an advantage over him during the talks between KasiCair and the daimyo of the Land of Snow that will be happening in 2 days. Despite all that, Sosetsu Kazahana still could not see his brother Dodo betraying him. How sad, Rei thought with an eye roll. The man was not stupid. He just always tried to see the best in people. Then again, because of that, he always did what he thought was best for the people of the Land of Snow. A trait that made Rei think highly of the man and ridicule him at the same time. The problem was not that he did so. The problem was Sosetsu did nothing substantial to protect himself and his daughter, to deter anyone trying to take the country from him. I see the life of a daimyo is quite busy. Ray announced his presence to the man, shifting through paperwork with a sour expression. Ray enjoyed how the man stiffened when he registered he was not alone. And yes, the security in this castle sucks hard. You may think about updating it. Nah, scratch that. You should fire every idiot you call a guard first. I spotted 5 sleeping on duty, 1 going at it with a maid, 3 playing cards, 5 talking about their scary wives and shivering as I walked right past them, and, well, you get the picture. He sincerely added. Thoughts flashing through his mind could almost be seen flashing through Sosetsu's eyes, as his expression changed almost every second. From stunned to scared, changing to resigned, only to morph again when he heard Ray's jab at the security. It changed to a hopeful one. Since you are giving me such advice, you are not here to kill me, are you? Sosetsu asked in a quiet voice that made it obvious the man was scared beyond belief, while trying to look brave. That is quite a naive thing to ask. Would I really answer truthfully if I was an assassin? Ray couldn't help but smile. But no, I am not here to kill you. Hearing the answer, Sosetsu's sweat dropped. So is he, or is he not an assassin? He mentally cried in a sullen way. I came to propose let's call it a business deal. Ray said, standing up. He walked towards Sosetsu's table, making the man more and more uncomfortable as Ray came closer. When he was finally near the table, Ray reached his hand into a pocket of his black garb, purposefully being slow about it, while enjoying how Sosetsu's nervousness levels shot through the roof, making the man sweat like a pig. Ray then quickly whipped his hand out of the pocket and slammed it onto the table. Sosetsu's heart almost jumped out of his throat at the sudden movement. His body, however, really jumped back on reflex. Or at least it tried to. His chair blocked his attempt, causing him to flip over alongside it, his feet shooting into the air. Ray peered in satisfaction at the groaning mess of a man he most likely frightened to death, and he couldn't help but chuckle at Sosetsu as he tried to scramble back up while gasping for air. Didn't I tell you I am not an assassin? What are you jumping for? Ray innocently asked, getting only an annoyed grunt in return. Sosetsu finally managed to stand up and sit again behind his table, this time a lot less wary of Ray than before. Seeing him read through the document, he slammed onto the table while being somewhat relaxed. Ray inwardly grinned. Well, that worked perfectly, didn't it? The more Sosetsu read through what Ray came to propose, the more horrified he became. A huge frown appeared on his face, and his wide eyes stared at the text in apprehension. Well, at least he didn't freak out. I will give him that. Ray mentally praised. After all, how many men could stay calm when finding out the preparation for their execution are already in place, and they have no way of surviving past the next 2 days? Worse yet, his daughter was also already marked for kidnapping at the very least. Honestly, there were many ways Kazuhana Koyuki could end up after this little rebellion. Running away from the country was a very good outcome. She might have been only a child, but she was an heir to the throne in the land of snow, meaning she could become a corpse quite fast. That was also a quite good outcome for her, to be honest. Dodo's wife at 13, prisoner, slave, toy, experimentation subject and Yukige cure were all Possibilites. Ray made sure to portray the situation somewhat realistically, leaning more towards a pessimistic outcome for the girl. He was here to persuade Sosetsu, and what he wanted from the man was a whole lot. He needed Sosetsu desperate, so letting the man know his daughter would be saved by the Konoha ninja he hired was a big no-no. Oh, and yup, these documents are completely truthful. If you want a proof, I can provide one, no problem. Ray smiled widely at Sosetsu. You want me to give you the land of snow? Sosetsu said, completely flabbergasted as he leaned on the backrest of his chair, rubbing his eyes. I certainly wouldn't call it as such. Nevertheless, don't forget I offer you and your daughter safety. Ray shrugged. Sure, he might be a bit cruel here, but honestly, Sosetsu had full accountability for his and Koyuki's situation. If the man were more vigilant and more perceptible to the ugly side of human nature, if he actually employed some skilled ninjas as guards, Ray would not be here today. The most ironic part of it all was that the land of snow, and by extension Sosetsu, was literally drowning in money. The land was quite harsh, but their science was top-notch. They were the only party that could be loosely called competition to the Bairi company in the world, despite both focusing on different things and therefore never going into a direct confrontation with each other. Sosetsu was quiet for 10 minutes, and Ray simply sat on the couch for guests. He knew this decision was a massive deal for Sosetsu and the Kazuhana family. I want you to guarantee me you will treat the people of the land of snow justly and fairly, Sosetsu finally said in a resigned tone. In the end, the man chose his daughter before his country. Define justly and fairly, Sherlock. I am sure May would think melting somebody, who she deems a prick, is quite just and fair in her humble opinion. Ray inwardly snorted, but outwardly he only rolled his eyes. But, I can work with this. Nah, do it yourself. Sure, I want control of the land of snow, and the final say, but I never said I want to manage it. Consider yourself hired into the position of the daimyo. Ray jovially stated, I want to create a new hidden village, so I have no time to manage an entire country. If you want the people to have good lives, then simply stay as a manager of sorts. That way you can check what I do and how I do it. Frankly, I think me being here would give this country more benefits. Hidden village? But we already have Yukige cure. So Setsu suddenly quieted down and Rei nodded at him, seeing that the man understood his meaning. Well, since they are going to betray you, the daimyo, I would say they desperately need reforming. And coincidentally, the right man for the work stands right in front of you. Rei barely held himself back from laughing. The entire situation was incredibly humorous if one wasn't on the receiving end. So Setsu stared at Rei with an open mouth when he finally managed to comprehend the magnitude of what Rei wanted from him. He wanted to create the first nation ruled from the shadows by the hidden village in it, and he wanted to keep it secret to boot. Nobody would know the country was in the hands of another if Sosetsu agreed to stay. And Sosetsu didn't think he had a chance to leave. Even if he left, what then? While he might be able to gather some support in foreign countries, it would all simply go down to the benefits he would offer these countries. His daughter? Something belonging to his people? Territory? Even if he wanted to retake the country from Rei, he would have to promise something in the possession of his country to others or wed away his daughter. That meant, okay, I will continue being the daimyo. So Setsu's shoulders slumped in resignation. He then suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at Rei with an inquisitive gaze. To whom am I actually giving my country for the safety of my daughter? Rei pursed his lips. Well, you might know me. I am a bit famous these days. He reached his hand over the table for a handshake with a pleasant, but somewhat mischievous smile plastered on his face. Rei, the leader of Yozora, nice to meet you. So Setsu fainted.